evening and welcome to SVGTV's news for Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Savs on NBC Radio today announced that the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, will be granting the government a soft loan of $6 million. The Prime Minister said the money will go towards post-volcanic recovery efforts and some will be used as refurbishments.
I also, by way of information, contacted the Caribbean Development Bank about the disbursement of a $5 million soft loan in respect of the rehabilitation recovery after the volcano. We have actually spent most of that from our own resources already, and we need reimbursement. I need the money to roll things further. In other words, we had gotten the loan, but banking, government, bureaucratic, organizational issues, and I didn't want anybody to be sitting on anything after we had spent. Under the agreement, we were permitted to spend our own money first now.
Prime Minister Gonsalves said that there will also be a disbursement from the soft loan.
God contacted the bank by phone, and of course we have very excellent relations with the CDB, but we just had to make sure that the consultant proceeds on a very timely basis, so that we get our reimbursement, and for the portion which is not which we hadn't spent from our own resources, that we have it disbursed.
PM Gonsalves also announced that another $62 million have been sourced for the port modernization project. The Prime Minister did not go into much detail about the fund agency as negotiations are still ongoing.
Yesterday I received notification that in a particular one of the sources that they have agreed to provide as a soft loan this gap of 62 million US for the port. There's some details which I gave instructions yesterday to the Director General of Finance and Planning to conclude, and I think on the 21st he's having a meeting with the relevant persons to begin the process of concluding those arrangements, so that I can then get Attorney General Chambers. I could get the agreement put in place. There'll be a few weeks still with the agreement, and then I don't have the agreement in writing. I have to take it to the Parliament and in a bill and the like. There's some funding which is done by Japan for some of the some social safety net support through WFP. This is not the money from the global appeal, UN appeal, which we did, and where the money is paid, the 4,000 or so families, where it's paid through the Western Union. This was money which those have now come to an end, but we did it with about 3,200 families for vouchers now, for redeemable at supermarkets, particular supermarkets. Well, that particular aspect of that program with the Japanese money is finished.
The initial cost for the new port was US $100 million. The 40-plus families from Rose Place who were required to relocate to make way for the new port are expected to receive their keys to their new homes at Lobans Bay by month end. And Prime Minister Gonzalez gave an update on the meeting he had yesterday with Japan's Ambassador Tatsu Harimaya and the UN delegation who visited communities in the red zone affected by the volcanic eruption and the new site for the Louis Winnett home in Orange Hill to be funded by the Japanese government. The Prime Minister said the discussion with the Japanese ambassador was very fruitful, acknowledging the contributions of the World Food Programme, WFP, and the International Organization for Migration, the IMO, towards the volcanic recovery efforts. Prime Minister Gonzalez said SVG is reaping benefits from being a member of UN agencies.
IOM, International Organization on Migration. I had St. Vincent join that body in 2012. It didn't belong before. I had started the process of making sure that we can get the requisite benefits, and then I had the leading official come down to St. Vincent, and I put in the application to join. A lot of times, when you join these organizations, I know some people, the normal opportunistic thing by people who don't know anything. Some who just playing petty politics and, who just want to beat up on you while you're doing good. Where Ralph, another one of them thing there is a chance. He just wants to go to these things. I mean, I know that people trust my judgment. That's why I'm in government. I mean, far more people trust my good judgment than those who don't. That's why I'm still the Prime Minister. But you see how important this is?
Japan, through the international organization Migration, is funding the rehabilitation works to be carried out at the Louis Winnett home in Orange Hill. At a ceremony at the site yesterday, Japanese Ambassador His Excellency Tatsu Harimaya said his government is pleased to be of assistance to SVG in the time of need, noting that Japan also experiences disasters and understands the challenges in dealing with them. The ambassador said that Japan remains steadfast in assisting the government with the recovery efforts, as have already given grant monies to help with emergency relief and reconstruction work.
Severe disasters, first we have to cooperate in assisting saving lives, and also providing emergency relief assistance, and also finally providing the reconstruction efforts to go back to normal life for the affected people. That is why last year when the volcano here erupted, and our government decided to provide emergency relief materials to this country, and later, in response to the UN appeal for more emergency assistance, our government decided to provide $1.58 million rehabilitation or retrofitting of the historical building or facility into a modern, more useful purpose facility. We know the dreadfulness of the disasters, and we always try to make ourselves more prepared, more resilient, less vulnerable against possible natural disasters. But still, disasters could happen at the size of beyond our imagination or beyond our estimate, and then disasters will not choose the time, venue.
Representative of the International Organization for Migration, Jan Willem Weg-Dam, said the funding of the project comes to an end in April 2022, by which time works on the Louis Winnett home in Orange Hill should be close to completion.
The design objectives that we have defined are behind here. this building should become safe, a welcoming, safe, and eco-friendly. The welcoming part, we think this should remain a building with a function for the community. The community should be able to visit here and to visit their elderly people. So there should be an area where people can meet, can hang out, can support. Second, safe. There are all kind of people with that are less mobile, with disabilities, with visitors. So we need to make sure that it is accessible but also safe for everyone. And then eco-friendly. We want to use as much as possible solar systems, recycling of products and materials also that some parts are gonna be demolished. We're gonna see how we can reuse these materials in the design of the final building. We're looking forward. It's a challenging project because if you're gonna refurbish or retrofit an existing building, you never know what pops up, but we are confident that we have the right engineers on board and the right contractors that we're gonna hire to make this a beautiful home.
Dr. Marie Davis of the Louis Panette Home says following the eruption of La Soufrière volcano, many elderly persons were brought to shelters and at least 50 were abandoned. Speaking at yesterday's ceremony to mark the commencement of rehabilitation work on the new Louis Panette Home at Orange Hill, Dr. Davis said she is grateful that they are not at this stage.
We have the inherent rights to life, dignity, and integrity, which shall be protected. After the explosive eruption of the La Soufrière volcano, most of our vulnerable population, the elderly, approximately 50 persons, were abandoned by their loved ones. Due to this, here this afternoon, we are here to mark the groundbreaking ceremony of this project, the Louis Panette Annex at the Orange Hill. This initiative will provide the necessary accommodation for the elderly.
Dr. Davis said that the government continues to look at ways to making the lives of the elderly better and thanked the Japan government and the UN agencies for their assistance in this endeavor.
On the 19th of December 2019, the facility was relocated to the former nurses' hostel at Stony Ground in Kingston due to the deplorable condition of that facility. The capacity only could accommodate 64 residents. Hence, we were unable to accommodate those 50 persons who were left at the various shelters. Today, I am happy to be here at this groundbreaking ceremony and the good collaboration with the Japanese mission to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the kind deed to fund such a project, especially to house the indigent elderly.
Upon completion, the facility at Orange Hill will have all the amenities to make the lives of the elderly comfortable.
Going forward, what is paramount, most of the elderly are from this constituents. Home is where the heart is. What is of greater importance, according to Proverbs 19:17, it is a challenge to us to do more than to pity the poor. Proverbs is asking us to be kind to them, showing mercy and help them where they are. What we can give to the poor is considered as a loan to God. Finally, all of us must take note. God will not forget what we have done in caring for the poor and needy. We will be rewarded richly. This project will not be considered as wasted time or money thrown away.
Opposition Member of Parliament for Central Kingston, Major Sinclair Leacock, has employed Vincentians to stop enhancing SVG as a poverty-rich country. He was at the time delivering on radio what would have been the contribution to the 2022 budget debate in Parliament, which the opposition MPs sat out, citing safety concerns after a number of government MPs tested positive for COVID-19. Dedicating his presentation to the life and times of Sir James Mitchell, founding father of the New Democratic Party, Leacock said it is time that Vincentians wise up and rise up.
The ULP government, Madam Speaker, is taking us Vincentians for fools. I invite you, Madam Speaker, to imagine yourself being sent to the shop. I know you don't do that often, or the supermarket, or wherever you want to go. But stay with me in my analogy, Madam Speaker. With just enough money to buy a bag of penny bread. But the person who is sending you is asking you to bring back the sandwich loaf. Knowingly giving you enough just to buy the penny bread. But by some magic he expects that you will return with the sandwich loaf. That, Madam Speaker, is a very practical way of explaining, and I'm reducing these to dollars and cents. For one, with $6.70, you can buy $9.30 worth of goods, any place, anywhere, at any time. Because that's what it is. How with $600 and something million would you procure 930 something million worth of services? It can't happen.
Noting that budget 2022 is misleading, Leacock said it cannot turn out the outcomes that the government wish for and that they are merely trying to make the impossible possible.
Speaker, the Minister of Finance himself knows this and admits it. And he admits it on page 76 of his report. And I quote, Madam Speaker, what the Minister of Finance himself had to say, how he presented the data, the figures. He says, taken at a glance, these are not my words, these are not the NDP words, these are not Dr. Friday's words. Budget 2022 has a current deficit of $49.5 million, almost $50 million short to do the things they want. He admits that. And in all, there's an overall deficit of $376.3 million. And he tells us where the fiscal sum is. So how, Madam Speaker, in God's name, that you, a big man, self-respecting, can in one hand say on the recurrent side you're $50 million short, and your total shortage is $376 million, and then proclaim to St. Vincent you're going to make things happen? Madam Speaker, we can't go on like this. So James, our esteemed founding father, used to say you have to have money to buy good wine.
The opposition MP said while the government continues to talk about transformation, this cannot be done without money, and that the COVID-19 pandemic, along with the eruption of La Soufrière volcano, exposed what he termed as a soft underbelly of Vincentian society, not only in the red zone, but also in the orange and green zones.
Whether it's east, west, or central Kingston, South Leeward, east and western George, even out to central Leeward, South Windward, and some in the orange zone. None escaped, Madam Speaker. Everyone was clamoring for a box of food, Madam Speaker. The stark nakedness and hunger of our people regrettably came true during that volcanic experience, Madam Speaker. You only have to look at what happened when government was dishing out monies to any of the interest groups, farmers, vendors, cultural artists, people climbing on one another's back in the ghee shed. or the Georgetown school climbing upstairs, or wherever there's a giveaway. There was chaos as people just simply tried to feed themselves. Those embarrassing photos, Madam Speaker, speak for himself. St. Vincent is indeed in a dark place.
Meanwhile, opposition MP for East Kingstown, Fitzgerald Bramble, who also made his contribution to the 2022 budget debates on radio, said with the pandemic and the natural disaster of the volcanic eruption, the percentage of Vincentians living in poverty on the poverty line has increased. Bramble said these two crises exposed a weak economic structure and disturbing blindfolded approach to economic development by the government.
This development plan has been in operation since 2013. We're talking about 8, 9 years ago. So over the period of the last 8 to 9 years, the government has failed to maintain strong macroeconomic fundamentals. And these are some of the macroeconomic fundamentals that they're talking about. Unemployment. Unemployment right now is in the 40+ % range since COVID and the volcanic eruptions. 40% at least is our unemployment figure in this country. Growth, economic growth, well, I already spoke about that. So they're failing there again. Monetary and fiscal policy. Fiscal policy, they're failing because fiscal policy involves government spending on taxes. And from year to year, the government has been presenting us with deficit budgets. In other words, they're planning to spend more than what they're going to be able to raise in revenue in order to spend what they say they're going to spend. So they're failed in terms of their fiscal policy. International trade, failed. Our balance of trade right now is over $800 million. What that means is that the amount of money that we bring in from exports is exceeded by the amount of money that we send out for importing goods by over $800 million. And we're talking about international trade. Our national debt.
Knocking the government for what he deems as the poor implementation of the National Economic and Social Development Plan 2013 to 2030, Bramble said all the macroeconomic fundamentals have been weakened instead of strengthened under the plan.
They want to revitalize the agricultural and fisheries sector. That's what the plan is saying. Well, I've already talked about the poor performance of the agricultural sector. They would like to stimulate growth in the tourism sector. Again, failed. They would like to enhance the role of the private sector and manufacturing in economic and social development in conjunction with the state and cooperative sectors. This government has demonstrated through its ill-advised policies and its failed policies that it is really not pro-business. It is not a government that is seriously concerned about the development of the private sector, which incidentally is the engine of growth in our country. They're not able to have businesses be compliant with taxes. In other words, our corporate tax rate right now is 30%. Businesses have to pay 30 cents on every dollar that they bring in. It's too high, and that is why you have so many businesses.
In other news, the UE Seismic Research Center, in its latest update on the La Soufrière volcano on Monday, January 17, 2022, said the seismic activity continues to be at a low level since the tremor associated with the explosion and ash venting on April 22, 2021. The center said no Laha signals have been recorded during the reporting period and that the current activity is consistent with a period of unrest after an eruption. This, it said, it can continue for weeks to months, and that while volcanic activity has been on the decline, there is the continued presence of near-surface hotspots, daily seismic activity, and persistent degassing. The center said there is a small but non-insignificant possibility that magnetic activity might restart should there be an influx of new magma from the depths. The volcano alert level remains at yellow.